Hello, everybody. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. Thank you for joining us for our regular live show, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, every Tuesday for many years. We've changed the days and times a little bit, but we've consistently been here, except for maybe 2 or 3 days off. But we're here to take your questions about U.S. immigration live. I know U.S. immigration process can be confusing, so we come here once a week, regardless of having allergies and stuff that I'm having, to talk and take your questions for general educational purposes, not intended as individual legal guidance about the U.S. immigration process. And we're live here on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and TikTok. All you need to do is shoot out your questions. If it's something I can answer in some form or fashion, I'll let you know. Sometimes the questions are too broad, sometimes they're too specific. But if they hit the sweet spot, I can really get into it more deeper. Saw Falls says, I got my I-130 approval family base. Congratulations, Saw. What kind of I-130 was it? Marriage, to citizen, or green card holder, sibling case, parent, child? And are you doing adjustment of status or constant processing? Son over 22. Okay, so F2B category. Well, it depends. Is it the petitioner a citizen or a green card holder? And is the son married or single? So all these factors, if people contact us on I-130, there's a lot of different types of I-130s. We got to get really into it. But anyways, feel free to share out your questions, and we'll do our best to answer them next half an hour. If you want to schedule a private consultation, it's best to go to our website, jqqlaw.com/contact. Again, the website is jqqlaw.com/contact. And also, if you're interested in a marriage green card case or a fiancé visa case, something we primarily do at our office, we have a guide called the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide, 50 plus pages of guidance on this whole issue to have a beginning education session of what's going on your own time with charts and videos and explanations, all that kind of stuff. The website to download that is marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Again, that's marriageimmigrationlaw.com. In the meantime, feel free to shoot out your questions and we'll get the show started. Let's check it out really quick on TikTok. We got a lot of people following us. I appreciate you coming on the live and liking it. Hunter says, does juvenile delinquency trigger inadmissibility at the time of consular interview? Normally, juvenile issues don't come up or not considered for immigration. Very rarely, so I have to see what it's about. But if it's just basic juvenile delinquency, probably is not going to be an issue. You may need to get police certificates just to be safe, but that's it. We'll have to see what more details are needed about what the situation was, but usually it's not a problem. Law says, any updates on green card pause for asylees and refugees? Well, there was a pause. There's claim for I-730s, family members of asylees and refugees, but that has been lifted. I mean, that's not happening. But whether a green card pause is happening, it's still happening or not, I don't have any updates on that. M. Sadiq asks, follows up, mother's a citizen. I have DACA. Party notice May 2024. Not sure a priority date you probably mean. They approved that pretty fast. So the issue is if you have DACA, it depends on, I just need more information, DACA, to see if your priority date is current, which is probably not going to be. But also if you have unlawful presence, you'll need a waiver. So it's a little complicated. It's not impossible, Sog, but just have an eye out. There's a lot going on. Priority 2024. They approved that I-130 pretty quickly. I don't know why I did that. But you're backlogged on the F2B category if you're over 21. And so that says, hi, John. OS 155A was approved. What's next? OS 155A. We don't call it that. I think you mean just like the green card stamp, or is that the 151A? Immigration related is documented for visa alongside an alien national. I think you just mean your interview was approved and they issued a visa. If that's what you mean, then you just got to pay the green card fee and come to the United States. A lot of people I see, especially doing the cases on their own, they use very highly technical immigration language, but the only reason most law sounds complicated is because they want to make it more complicated than it is. A good lawyer simplifies things. So we just say like receipt notice. Oh, the visa was approved. We just use simple language like that. You're welcome, Sog. Bainson says F2A has not moved in a while. I think it moved a little bit maybe recently, but yeah, the F2A category, spouse of a green card holder, minor child of a green card holder. Unfortunately, that category is backed up and it's not moving. It's very annoying that that's the case, but that's where we're getting a lot of people stuck on it. Bainson, is that usually a sign of over applications? Yeah, technically it means there's a lot more demand for that category than there's annual visa numbers that they give it. So that's exactly what it means. It means like too much demand for that application type. For many years, it was current, and all of a sudden it went from being current to 3 years backlog. So it was like a weird situation that happened. Alejandro says if it ended with case dismissed as a result of continuance without a finding. Okay, you need to have the dismissal order, but talk with immigration in private. You're welcome, hand. Let's see, more questions. More questions. Kabul says, is the information for new system, the IB status tool, is correct information? I'm not sure which status page you're looking at, and I can, the government, their online systems are not always accurate, so I can't say something's is accurate or not. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Alicia says, did USCIS increase time for J1 visa waiver approval of J1 waiver approval? Usually the time issue isn't regarding USCIS. It's more like the Department of State. And yeah, I mean, they're getting better at it, but I'm not sure when you say increased time, it's like relative, but it's taking a long time essentially. And Gialala says, just came back from my husband consular processing interview Guatemala. We were approved, thankfully. Congratulations, Gialala. Consular processing is when you get the green card through the embassy. You get an immigrant visa. You need to get that immigrant visa stamped in your passport, pay the green card fee, $235, and enter the United States as soon as possible to trigger the issuance of the green card. That's definitely you should do that. Alicia, good to see you. Thanks for joining and the gifter badge. Okay, so next question. So the immigration system right now is going through upheaval. I did a video yesterday about this, but if you're going through a marriage green card process, and actually a lot of other processes, just generally with USCIS, the two things that we're seeing, one is that there's interview requirements for almost everything now. So you have to go for an interview for your adjustment of status case, and they're going to ask you a lot of questions that they normally would have just skipped. For example, they ask questions like, have you trafficked in human beings? Are you a drug dealer? Are you a prostitute? They'll say stuff like that. Usually they would have skipped those questions because obviously most people aren't hired. And then the other thing that's popping up, we're seeing with the embassy, if you're dealing with USCIS, is there's lockbox mailing issues. So you mail something in, the government doesn't get it, or they send it back by error, or you have a deadline to respond to something from the government. You respond to it, and you have proof that you responded. You have mail tracking, and then you get a denial letter saying you didn't respond to our request for evidence, even though you did, or a response to notice of intent to deny. And then the process of fixing that, typically we would have contacted an organization called the USCIS Ombudsman to help us fix it. But the Trump administration shut that organization down, so we can't get their help. And people are filing a motion, the I-290B motions. This is like an appeal, essentially saying, hey, there's an error. And some of those are getting denied incorrectly too. So there's a lot of practical errors that are happening. There's a lot of stress on the immigration department. They're trying to get rid of a lot of employees in all aspects of immigration, from immigration judges to USCIS employees. They're trying to do a workforce reduction when in fact they need to increase workforce because there's just more. And the thing about USCIS is you have filing fees you pay. So it's not like the government's paying for these people. Your filing fees are paying for them. So it's not a very fair thing they're doing, but that's the thing. So delays are going to come, mistakes are going to come. That's the thing we're seeing in the immigration system right now. Kabul follows up. I'm waiting for NBC to schedule IB visa for more than 10 months. I changed 3 embassies. Can you help? I changed to 3 embassies. No, I'd unfortunately just stick to 1 embassy and wait, see which one's the fastest and stick with that on that website. Do work with criminal background? Do work with criminal background? Juju, I'm not sure what your question is. Could you phrase it again? I'm not sure what you mean. Do work with criminal background. I'm not sure what that means. But thanks for the gift that you're giving. Number 2 gifter badge. Good. Okay, so I think there's some sort of thing being throttled online because the internet connection sucks. We usually have a million people coming on board and asking questions. Alejandro follows up. How can you change embassies if not your original country? You can make a request from the embassy or from the National Visa Center, depending on where the case is in the process, and then depends on their discretion whether they'll accept it or not. It should be a country you could you go to easily and be there for a while. It's not usually done, but it's not impossible. Daniel Abram says, hello, Attorney John. Hi, Daniel. Good to see you. Thanks for coming on the YouTube page. And thanks for the roses. I appreciate it. So feel free to shout out your immigration questions about U.S. immigration. Mom would ask, hi, my dad's holding a green card order. He already applied for my mom's I-130. Can my mom apply for a B2 as my dad's in hospital? Yeah, they could apply for it, but whether the embassy will approve it or not, it's at their discretion. But if your dad's in the hospital, well, give it a shot, The loss is just dealing with the embassy, the cost and going there, the interview and stuff. The key for me as an immigration lawyer is that in your form DS-160, your information is consistent. There's a question in Form DS-60 asks if you have a petition pending. They say yes if they do. They ask what family members you have in the U.S., and you should be honest there, because those will typically lead to a denial. But in your case, just bring evidence. Have evidence of the hospitalization and request an emergency appointment. and it just may work. And if it doesn't, contact your congressperson. Do everything you can. You definitely want to see each other. Jude says, do you work with criminal background? My father is trying to apply for residency. No, we don't typically handle cases that have criminal background. Email me and I'll connect you with a colleague who does. Sahil says, I have a citizenship interview last week. I had a citizen interview last week. Okay, what happened, Sahil? Please let us know. Can you apply for B2 for her? Yeah, I can help you apply. I mean, it's just she's applying. If you need my help, we can. Please schedule a consultation and we'll take it from there. I do have a video on YouTube explaining the entire tourist visa B2 process, what you need to know. But if you want individual service on that, we could. It's kind of expensive, but it's possible. But check out the YouTube video on JQK Law's webpage, B2 visa. And then after that, schedule a consult. Go to jqqlaw.com/contact, jqqlaw.com/contact, and we have initial consult around the tourist visa and see if you want to hire my office to finish it off. But definitely something to look into to get each other to see each other, because the I-130 is going to be pending a long time. Spouse of a green card holder I-130 takes 3 years to be approved right now, then probably another year to get an interview, and then even after the interview, especially if you're from Pakistan, I'm guessing you're from Pakistan, I'm not sure. Don't hate me if I'm if you're not, but it takes a long time for you to even get an interview. And then once you get an interview, you get stuck in administrative process, just nightmares. Sahil follows up, and my status is case was submitted quality review on an approval recommendation. Okay, I haven't seen quality review, but yeah, just wait out, see what happens. Noble says, I did interview and it's 45 days now, no response from USCIS. I-485, is there a reason why? It could just be that they forgot about you, or just, they're going to approve it soon, or it could be there's major problems with your case. So not having reviewed your case, I'm not in a position to answer that question. We can have a consultation session so I can see what answers you gave to see if there's anything particular, like a red flag that stands out. But sometimes it just takes a while and it gets approved. And sometimes it's major problems. I just had a couple calls this week of people who had their marriage green card interview more than a year ago. And now they're calling Rachel to see what's happened. I'm like, well, you're doing a fraud investigation at this point if it's taking this long. So you should have you should have had a lawyer with you, frankly, but that's that. Mitsu says, my interview got scheduled for July 1st after I filed in April. Is it normal for spouse so fast that adjustment status when I'm being set up? Recently, their April, May, June. I mean, that's kind of fast, May, June, July. But ever since February, they're putting they're not slamming, the opposite of slamming the brakes. They're putting the pedal on the gas when it comes to scheduling interviews for spousal cases. So we're seeing a lot of them come up fast. Roman says, hello, 50 days after filing I-360 concurrently, no receipt notice, what to do. Contact USCIS or email the lockbox, see what's going on. Sometimes Wildfire says, hello, how can it possibly get an employer for file AB3? That's not what I do. I can't really help you with that, but if an employer really wants you, they'll do it. Sarif asks, if I filed the I-539 while waiting for my adjustment of status receipt notice, is that okay? I'm trying to bridge the gap between I-94 expiration and just as notice in case there's an issue. Well, there's problems there. One is even if the notice is taking a while to get, as long as the government got it, it'll go based on the day they got it. So that'll close the gap. Hopefully there's no errors. But an I-539 is like an extension of status. Depends on what kind of status you have. But let's say you have a tourist visa and you're extending it. You have to have non-immigrant intent. So that case is going to be denied, very likely. So I'm not sure if it's worthwhile to do something like that. But, you give it a shot. It's just be forthcoming with the fact that you have an adjustment case pending, which is probably going to lead to a denial of that. I'm not sure why your receipt notice takes so long. Usually we get receipt notices at least within a few days. They'll take the money out of the account so we know they got the case. So sorry, it's best to talk to the immigration prior to see what happens before you make a big decision like filing an I-539 extension of status case. Exo says, time's not good bringing family move from Canada. No, it's not a bad time. Just everything's like it was. Tashwat says, so I had an interview and they said to me, they need to review my case. What do you think about it? I don't have any opinion. I don't know anything about your case just because they said something doesn't really help at all. I need to actually see what's going on. Mario says, hello, on average, how long is the consular processing? Well, it depends on what country you're from and what kind of case you have. In case not be current, you might be in certain countries that have delays. You might be in a country that has admin processing delays after the interview. You might have some background issues. So that's why when you say consular processing, how much long it takes, it's not a reliable thing. I just say out of the blue like that. It's always up to the government. Sarah asks, my fiance received an ineligibility letter after 5 months of AP. We submitted a few documents and asked for reconsideration. After 3 months, we received another email stating we are still processing your case. I'm not sure what ineligible letter means. So we'll have to see what it actually says. It's still case pending. Go to the CEAC website and check your case status there. See what it says based on your case number. But not having a review what the letter says. What either get a denial notice or that's it. So ineligibility letter. I'm not sure what you meant ineligibility for a fiance case. We submitted a few documents and asked for reconsideration 3 months. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on in your case. So the terminology you're using isn't exact. It's not the terminology we use, so it leaves me unable to answer your question. XOS, what's birthright? They're talking about it in news a lot. Birthright just means like if you're born inside the United States, land, you have a birthright. By birth, you're allowed to be a U.S. citizen, and President Trump is trying to take that away. There's a big case in the Supreme Court to make a decision whether he could do that or not. Ms. Cody says, I have a scheduled interview. Good luck. Api says, hello, sir. Would you share what are some good supporting documents for I-751 waiver? Well, it's not good or bad. It's really what you have, Api. So, if you have a lease agreement together, you have children together, you have a lot of bank money in bank together, savings accounts, trust accounts, what's it called? Investment accounts or retirement accounts. That's good. You have driver licenses with the same ID. You own a car together. You own a house together. Those are good supporting documents, but not everyone has that. So then we have to see what other stuff we have, what travel records you may have, what photos from letters from family and friends you have, any other things that are there. Sarah says he was ineligible based on mandatory service in. Unfortunately, if you're going to follow up that sentence, Sarah, let's see, with IRGC or SEPA, there's nothing you can do about that case, unfortunately. So that's going to be not a situation. Mitsu said, so it's not a RGC, yeah, so there's just nothing you can do. Maybe it's still in processing, I don't know, but they're denying all the IRGC claims. They may have changed things for all I know, but I haven't seen IRGC approval in, I don't know, 8 years or something like that. Mitsu says, last question. At the interview, I know they're going to ask for my visa I entered with, but that document has been lost. I had copies I submitted with an application, but failed to mention it was lost. Okay, to update it was lost. I have the police report affidavit that I lost it. Okay, that's good. So as long as you have evidence of lawful entry, you really need your I-94. The visa isn't as important. You need your I-94. If that's given along with I-94, is that interview with that sufficient? Yeah, they'd really look at I-94. If you lost your visa, you lost it. But the I-94 is the evidence of admission. That's the main thing. Sarah says case still showing us pending on site. So that might be the case. I don't know, but I haven't heard of any IRGC cases being approved. Iranian, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps members being approved. Hopefully it changed it, but I mean, not hopefully. It's a mixed bag. But I know a lot of families are getting hit by this who didn't want to even participate in that organization. Maybe they start reviewing. I'm not sure, but typically, if someone comes to me saying they have an IRGC case, I just won't even accept it because right now they're not approving it. So unless they want to roll the dice, that's I'm not sure why they would say that. Usually, it says just a straight denial. Vijaya says, are the adjustment of status for parents of U.S. citizens proceeding normally now? Yeah, nothing's changed on that kind of case. Just if its case is strong and just basic case, then it's good. Patel asks, hello, I have a family-based document. I have family-based documents qualified in London. Please tell me when our interview is coming. I don't know what kind of family case you have. Is it a sibling case, adults, parent of a U.S. citizen, unmarried child of a U.S. citizen, a married child of a green card holder? I don't really know. You can't do a married child. So Petra, I can't say timelines, but especially because I don't know anything about your case, I can't really advise. Sarah says, I mean, we could go in deep and ask a million questions about your case, but then we'll miss out on other people's stuff. Best to schedule a private consultation, talk with an attorney. You're welcome, Sarah. I wish I had better news, Sarah. Let's see. You're welcome, Mario G. Thank you for the gift. If Tourist enthusiast says, I've applied for adjustment of status as an asylee. Okay, those are the ones they're saying they might have delays. Hopefully that's not the case. That they're pausing the review of those. Zoe says, can I apply for EB2 NIW if I filed an asylum case was pending while I was still in status? So this is a question we get all the time. If you haven't, you could file the EB2 NIW. That's a form I-140. But whether you could do adjustment of status if that's approved, normally it's denied. Sometimes rarely they'll approve it, but you probably do constant processing, which is risky thing to do. Patel says, I have married family 3F3, so we got to see when your case is current and what the timelines are for the embassy. They have released this website for the Department of State where it says for preference category what cases that are documentarily qualified are getting interviews scheduled. So you got to find that Department of State website. It just released like a week or two ago. Patel, it might give you some information, but it's not always reliable. Zoe, thank you for the gifter badge. Just got the number 3 gifter badge. I'm not sure what that all means, but thank you. It seems like giving gifts of some kind. Ambassador, thanks for joining. Top man, thank you for joining. Well, I guess, Patel, we have some time right now. I guess I kind of explained it. He told me F3. F3 is a adult married child of a U.S. citizen. That's the F3 preference category. They're like kind of backed up. But if your case is current and your documents are qualified, London is scheduling interviews pretty quickly. But check that website I talked about. It just came out that you could check how long it takes for an embassy to schedule an interview, get an appointment notice for the interview. Now, it might not be your actual interview date, but when they'll schedule it on this new Department of State website, you can look up. It's pretty neat. The nifty thing they have there helps a lot to get a better understanding which embassies are doing what. So that's nice that they put out finally. It took many years for them to finally do that, but it's a blessing that it came out. Mihalal says, how about F4? How long it takes after you got approval? So it's not how long after you got approval. It's you look at your priority date, and then you go check the Visa Bulletin. It's a website. You go to Visa Bulletin, and they'll have a timeline for F4 category, F4 preference, siblings, brothers, sisters of U.S. citizens. And depending on what country you're from, it'll say what cases started when or are getting approved now. Now, that timeline doesn't move consistently. Sometimes it will move for many years. So how long will it take? No idea. Vicky says, hey to you too. Nikki, not Vicky this time, says F4 priority date 12 March. So yeah, go to the Visa Bulletin. I don't know what country you're from, so that affects things as well. Let's see. Okay, so F4 preference. So yeah, that's actually someone else asking this question than the person that was previously asking the question about how long it takes for F4 preference. But if you go to just type in Visa Bulletin into Google, that first website comes up is the visabulletin.travel.gov, the Department of State's website. And then you look up, you click on the link for the most recent Visa Bulletin. Right now it's June 2025. And then you scroll down, if you're overseas especially, the first chart, if you're this is for people outside the U.S., F4, the final action date charts. And right now, for example, for cases for brothers and sisters of U.S. citizens started in January 1st, 2008, they're right now getting interviews, or at least could get a green card approved. Now, how long it's actually going to take, I don't know. In this chart, it updates every month, but it doesn't necessarily move forward every month. So that's the thing. But January 1st, 2008 is for most people. But if you're from India, it's June 15, 2006. So it's even worse. But the worst of them all is Mexico. So if you're a brother or sister, a Mexican brother or sister of a U.S. citizen, you're Mexican born. Right now, they're approving cases that were started in March 15, 2001. So 24-year delay for those. So that's why more information. I was in Nepal. It's January 1st, 2008. So you got a lot of years to go. Another 4 or 5 years at least. Nick, best of luck. Vicky says, how long before applying for 10-year green card? I'm not sure what your reference point is to how long from there. So I'm not sure what your question is precisely. Okay. So a lot of times there's two situations where a person needs to file for a 10-year green card. It's if you have a 2-year green card. Typically, it's people who got married and got their green card based on marriage. And if the marriage was less than 2 years old by the time the green card is issued, then the USCIS, the government, issues a 2-year green card because they want you to apply after 2 years for an extension. So you can quickly see whether you're still married, the relationship was real, what was going on. So you can double check to make sure it's not a fake relationship. That's typically people who do 10-year extensions after having 2-year green cards. But the other group are people who did investor visas, EB5, which is a smaller group. These are people who invested money, got a green card based on initial investment, and then after 2 years, have to show that the investment's still there and jobs are created from the investment, all that kind of stuff. Now, if you have a 10-year green card, you would also extension 10 years. You can only file for the extension within a 180-day or 6-month window before expiration. Okay, and then Vicky falls after removal green card. Yeah, that's it. So removal conditions, conditional green card. There's a 90-day window before expiration of the 2-year green card that you have to file the case. And then it takes anywhere from 6 months to 3 years on average to get that case approved. Typically, people, if they're married to U.S. citizens, been living with a U.S. citizen, we file for citizenship while the removal conditions, 10-year extension green card is pending. I-7514. Elisa says, how's N400 interviews are going right now? Haven't heard from them. I'm not sure who's hearing from them, but it's just they're going. There's nothing particular there. Zoe says, can I use I-140 approval to apply for I-485 after asylum approval and not wait 1 year to file? When you want to file for a green card based on I-140, you have to do what's called a 245A adjustment as opposed to 245M or something like that for asylum. And for 245A adjustment, there's requirements that you have like lawful entry and not have absences of a certain period of time, or unauthorized status for a certain period of time and all that kind of stuff. Can you do it based on 9140? I'm not 100% positive. I would think not, but I would need to review and have to do research. It's not a typical scenario we deal with, because it just doesn't pop up. So I need a lot more information. I need to think about it more. If you'd like to have a consultation session, but right off the bat of my head, I can't give an answer on that one. Chris Mar said, "Hey John, how's it going? Good to see you." Chris Mar, once again, a regular. I had a question. If I entered on parole 212D5 and recently got my green card, do I still have to go to my DHS check-in? I don't handle cases where people have DHS check-in, but that should have solved it. Maybe you could contact ICE and say, "Hey, I have a green card now. Please let me go." But I'm not a specialist in DHS check-in, so I'm not a good lawyer to ask about that kind of question. Abby follows up, "Thank you, sir. You're welcome. Once I'm eligible in 5-year rule to apply for citizenship, and I still haven't got any response from I-751, can I file for citizenship? How long the process take?" Yeah, if you have I-751 is pending and you're not like divorced or something like that, especially, and 5 years are up, then if you're married living with a U.S. citizen for 3 years, that you don't need to wait 5 years. But let's say you're married to a green card holder, you file for citizenship. How long will it take? It varies dramatically. It'd be 3 months. It could be a year and a half. It depends on what field office you're going to, your personal background, a lot of different stuff. But 3 months to say 18 months is pretty average. Chris Marr says, "Understood. Thanks for the input." You're welcome. Ahmad asks, "I have F2B case pending. It's not a case pending. Can I cancel my asylum? I came here through the border." Depends on how you came here to the border, and you haven't maintained status. So F2B probably won't work for you unless you do constant processing and you have not accumulated for presence. So Ahmed, you got a complicated case. It's not a place to really get into it here. You might not be able to do that. Agua says 42B approved. How long does it take to get the green card? I don't handle immigration court cases, so if 42B comes out of immigration court, so I don't want to get into that. Freedom says, "How do I get an SB1 visa?" You have to file for it at your local embassy. First, request the ability to get SB1. If it's approved, then you have to do consular processing essentially and go through the whole thing. Dwayne said it's been 3 months, no decision for my I-751 category C9 embassy field. Yeah, it could be 8 months. That's normal. Unfortunate delays. Paltry follows up. "Hello, sir. I have a family-based mom and daughter married, filed documents qualified April from London. Please tell me when interview's coming." Go check out that website. I don't keep track of every single variation of timelines across the world. It's not a realistic thing to ask from me. Please go to that website. I fully explained and check it out there. What about traveling domestically in the USA as a student? There's risks involved if you're out of status. I came from a southern border. Simon doesn't give enough information, just came from a southern border. It's like what kind of entry he had, what were the documents, and all that kind of stuff. So it's not enough info. Ali says, "My experience with USCIS was horrible. Absolutely nothing was wrong, and they were very aggro with me. I'm sorry that you had to go through that." Chris Marr says, "Understood. Thank you very much." You're welcome, Chris Marr. Thanks for coming on the show again. All right, we only got a few more minutes. If someone has one last question, let me know. We'll call it a day. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. If you want to schedule a private consultation, go to the website jqqlaw.com. It's jqqlaw.com. But better yet, if you're interested in a marriage or fiance visa case, you have the 50-plus page guide with charts and images and like videos explaining stuff. Check it out. The website is marriageimmigrationlaw.com. That's marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Dwayne asks, "Is interview stop being waived for green card?" Yeah. Ahmad says, "How can I book a consultation?" Normally, I would say go to my website, jqqlaw.com/contact. But for what you're looking for, I'm not a specialist in. It's because I don't deal with asylum and people who came through the border with parole or something like that. So I'd recommend consulting with other firms for that one. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today. It was a fun session. Got to kind of slow it down and properly, without rushing, get through a lot of questions. Again, if people are interested in having a private consultation, they should just contact us through our website. The website is jqqlaw.com/consult. Fill out the information there as your name, phone number, email, brief description, what country you're from, so we can have a better understanding of your situation and reply with an email breaking down how to schedule a time of consult. Ma says, "Is an interview required for I-751? Not always. It's a case-by-case basis. Most of them are waived, frankly, for me, I've seen, but it depends on how strong your case is and what USS is doing. So you can have a really strong case, but they still schedule an interview. Typically, most people that we deal with will be able to file for citizenship while the I-751 is pending. So the citizenship inevitably becomes an interview as a two-part interview. Under this administration, I haven't seen really any interviews happen for I-751 yet, so I can't give you any guidance other than that. Nothing's changed so far for I-751s. But again, most of them will file for citizenship because the I-751 takes so long, and citizenship requires an interview. So that kind of forces an interview, but they're quickly done usually. especially if it's a strong case. And most cases will be strong because people have the evidence and they can just get out on that one. But thank you for joining. I guess one last question I always ask: any advice with the N400 interview, especially with the current administration? It's nothing to do with the current administration. It's just know your stuff, practice U.S. English questions, know your history, make sure you don't have any admissibility, red flags, all that kind of stuff. So this administration doesn't make a difference. It's really just to have a good case and clean presentation. Moss 77 says, I have a notice of intent and I replied back and flip the joint to a waiver. Okay. Best of luck on that. Hopefully it works out. I'm guessing you're talking about I-751 cases. But thank you everyone for joining us. We'll be back again next week, 7 p.m. Eastern. 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. I'm immigration lawyer John Castravi. If you want to contact us, go to our website, jqklaw.com/contact, jqklaw.com/contact, and download our Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. Go to marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Moss says, thank you. You're awesome. Appreciate that. God bless you. You're great too. Thanks for coming on the show and asking the question. We really appreciate everyone joining. But until next one, have a good one. God bless. Be safe.